This is July 26, 2000. I'm at GR0049, the Hiyu mine. This is along Hiyu Creek, which is a tributary to Black Sand Creek. I'm kind of looking down on a, don't even know if it'll show very well, kind of a big cut. Over here it goes on down from about just past this little rock, big rock right there, on down through and extends down to a little access road that comes in over there. There's an adit and a shaft down here. The shaft is caved and the adit is nearly caved, but there does appear to be a small opening. You can see also kind of some notches going up through here. I'm standing on the end of another waste dump for what I'll call adit 2, which is up above me here. And the end of this has been kind of notched out for an old flume that came in. This area is just has literally dozens of little ditches. Right here you can see one kind of curves off, goes down toward the creek. Many of these little ditches that I'm sure must have been placer workings on the slope. There's also reported in the literature quite a few adits and shafts, not all of which were operated at the same time, and some which were probably refurbished and reworked. So it's a little difficult to say exactly what all is going on here, but in any case, that's kind of what's down here. I'll get down and take a look at that shaft and open adit here in a minute. There's also above, way up here on the slope, a real large cut into the bank. All the material's kind of been pushed out into what looks like a waste dump, but there really isn't any working there that I can see. It's just a big flat area and probably a little more recent than some of this other stuff down here. I'll go on down, we'll take a peek down at this shaft down here in the adit. Well, this is presumably the cave shaft. It's either a cave shaft or it was an adit that was cribbed all the way along the sides, which is entirely possible too. When I get down here and look, it could easily be that. They might have had lagging on the sides to keep this bank from excuse me, falling in on it. But anyway, back over in here, there is an opening that goes down into what appears to be an open adit, and then up above on the slope there's also a little hole that kind of goes down in and may connect up with that. Could be this thing was stoped out up here too as well. It's really difficult to tell because of how much everything has collapsed. If I go behind me, you can see over here is another big scarp on the slope. Some old sheet metal down there. May have been a structure here at one time. Don't really know. It's kind of a little flat there. Above it, there's another little ditch goes up through here. See if I can get up here and kind of peek up. Maybe this will show a little better. You see the little bright area in there is kind of a notched out area. All of these kind of have the appearance of just little gullies that have either been plastered or have eroded out since the mine was worked. So I'll go on up and I'll try to get a picture of that upper caved adit. I might have to renege on calling that other one a shaft down there. So there is supposed to be at least one shaft, and several are kind of reported in the literature, so I'll keep looking around a little. Well, this is what I'm calling adit 2. It's also caved. Again, a little channel kind of goes off here to the side. Don't know if that's a cave drift off of it. It's collapsed all the way down to where the waste dump begins, which is kind of center there where that material is, and then it goes on down past my backpack, probably about 50 feet to where that little flume goes across. Then behind me This little pile, I'm not sure where it came from, probably out of this little notch right here. And then to the north of it, you can kind of see this bare slope coming down that looks like a waste dump, and that's the downhill side of this big flat, which it's possible this was a shaft up here that's been backfilled, for all I know. See a big scarp here on the hillside, and an old access road comes in, but there's no indication at all of a depression or anything else that I could really tell what this would have been. Possibly some of the literature might give us a clue. Really difficult to describe these workings since they've been so modified through time, and it looks like some have been redone. Cuts have gone across some of the waste dumps. Some of the waste dumps have been partially removed either by plastering or by erosion. So I'll go on down, get some notes, and then get down toward the creek and see if there's anything down along the creek down there. I'm looking back up the little access road that goes to what I call adits 1 and 2 of the Hiyu. And down here, this is closer to the junction with Black Sand Creek. We have this little device here, and I think this might have been their Arastra. I'm not real sure. In any case, you can see they had a paddle wheel here, possibly to drive it. If it is, it was for, looks like it probably was for crushing the rock, and then it would be sluiced out of here, probably down into some boxes there, and the water going on down. There's also a little shed over here. A log shed, pretty well collapsed. A lot of scrap metal lying around here as well. See another drive arm with the sprocket on there. And a third or a second building here that's completely collapsed in on itself. It was kind of built back into the hill here on this side. Lots of scrap metal, 55-gallon drums and things down below it. And then a trough going out below that as well. And just around a little further to the north, this would be, is an old cabin. Pretty well built log structure, still standing with the sheet metal roofing that's been put on to try to preserve it a little bit. And the interesting thing here is this nice little flat going out here. Goes out about 150 feet and drops down over to the creek of what looks like a waste dump. And in fact, there is a little seep that comes out up here next to the cabin. Probably about a gallon a minute. It forms this little wetland right here, this little grassy marsh and bog, but not very much water. Another probably collapsed structure in there, the little cabin or a little shed or something. Lots of scrap metal and that sort of thing. Problem is, you go back to where this spring comes out and it looks like a spring and not an adit. There's really no indication of a caved adit. There was a pipe sticking into the ground or coming out of the ground there that I would assume was for the spring water. So where this, if it is a waste dump, came from or why it was built out here, I really don't know. I hesitate to call it an adit here simply because there's just no evidence back in here that there really was one. Also a little log outhouse back over here. Quite a bit of material's been excavated around here, so I suppose it's possible that they just excavated everything and hauled it out there and dumped it, but that doesn't really seem to make much sense either. I'm not going to bother getting a sample. This is pretty minimal flow here. I think it is a spring rather than an adit. If it isn't added, it's really not of any great significance, the amount of water that's coming out of there. Well, that should pretty well wrap it up for the Hiyu prospect, and we'll move down and see if we can get, I believe there's a couple more down here, the Banner and the US mine, so we'll go look for those.